Good morning. It's Paula live from the kitchen. I was asked by a good friend a few weeks ago for some advice on making a pie for her boyfriend's birthday, which was quite flattering. I'm definitely not a pie expert, but I do love pie. So we got her set up with a pie, and then she very sweetly asked me if I ever thought about doing a video demonstration of how to make pies. And I asked if she had any requests, and she said some kind of a custard pie. And I immediately thought flapper pie, which is super easy to make, doesn't require a lot of ingredients. As you can see, I have absolutely everything that I need here on the counter. Graham crackers, eggs, vanilla, milk, cornstarch, butter, sugar. The cream of tartar is there. It's optional. You don't have to include it, but you certainly can. And this is a recipe from Dinner with Julie, which is one of my go-to sites if I need a recipe or advice on any kind of baking. So I'm going to try to piece together this video, and can't wait to see you at the end and show you how this flapper pie turns out. So normally I would buy graham cracker crumbs. They come pre-crumbed. Unfortunately, the shelves have been a little bit bare of some of those kind of convenience items lately, so I just got a box of graham crackers, which are good for all sorts of things, and I'm just going to crush them up. So I've already started to crush them up in this little bag that they come in. I'm going to take them out. These bags aren't always terribly sturdy, so I'm going to take them out and crumple them up, and then we're going to make our crust. So I'm pretty much ready to make my crust. The oven is on at 375 degrees to set our crust. I've got my graham cracker crumbs measured out. I've marked about a quarter cup of butter on my for my butter. If you buy the individually portioned ones, each one is half a cup, and so I just roughly, oven's ready, I just roughly cut it in half for a quarter cup. I'm going to put it in the bowl, put it in the microwave for about 30 seconds, melt it, add a little bit of sugar. The recipe calls for a third a cup of sugar. Nope, sorry, a quarter cup of sugar. I'll add the sugar and the graham cracker crumbs, mix it up, press it into the pan, and then we can get it in the oven to set up. So we've got our crust ready to put in the pan. This is literally graham cracker crumbs, butter, and a little bit of sugar, nice and crumbly. I'm just going to put it in the pan and dump her in. Clearly I cannot video and bake at the same time. We're going to have to come up with a better system for doing this. All right, I need to let you go. I'm going to press this in, and then I'll show you what the final product looks like. Ta-da! So the crust has been pressed into the pan. It doesn't need to be fancy or perfect. You just need to make sure that there's no gaping holes in it. Just press it in. The butter helps with that for sure, just to make it stay in place a little bit. You might be able to see on my recipe I've made some notes. So I'm famous for altering recipes and making changes and never ever making note of it, and then I can't ever replicate or further modify what I made the first time because I don't remember what I did. So when I crushed the crackers up, I used one full package, and I eyeballed it, and I didn't think it was quite enough, so I added 4 more crackers, and that turned out that was too many. So I just made a note to just use 1 package of graham crackers for a cup and a quarter of crumbs, and that seems to work really well. So now I won't have to guess next time, provided I can find the recipe that I've filed away safely somewhere. So I'm going to get this crust in the oven, probably about 8 minutes-ish, just to get it golden and set. And while it's in the oven, I'm going to get working on the filling, and hopefully I can film some of that. It's a whisking over the stove job, so I may I may have to do that in stages for you. So the crust just came out of the oven. It smells delicious, and I'm just getting myself set up here to make my filling. So I need to separate my eggs. I'm gonna use the yolk in the filling, and I'm gonna use the egg whites to make a meringue. I'm totally cheating today, just to make sure I don't screw anything up. Sometimes when I separate my eggs, I just shuffle them back and forth from shell to shell, and get the white out that way. Sometimes what happens is the yolk breaks and then you end up with yolk in your whites, and that's really bad if you're making meringue. So I use this fancy dancy little egg white separator tool that I actually got from Pampered Chef a really, really long time ago. And it just helps to hold your yolk in place while you get your whites out. And this one is being particularly difficult. Come on. See, these are the foibles that you never see on the fancy cooking shows, right? I'll never be in Anna Olsen's kitchen. Gosh, I love that woman. She has like the perfect kitchen. So, so usually the whites come out really, really easily. This one is like seriously stuck. Okay, I need 2 hands to deal with this. I'll be back. I got it. I finally got it. That was the most stubborn egg white I have ever had to deal with. So I've got my 3 egg yolks in this bowl. I've got my 3 egg whites in that bowl. The egg whites are just gonna sit and wait until I'm done making my filling. What I'm gonna do is mix my sugar, cornstarch, and milk, get them heated up. I'm gonna add a little bit to the egg yolk, mix that up, and then add it back into the mixture on the stove and cook it until it's thick. So I'm gonna get as much of that process as I can for you. It is probably going to need 2 hands from me. I just want to make sure that I don't burn it, and so I want to make sure that I'm paying close attention to that while it's on the stove. All right, we're at the stove. So I have a 1/3 cup of sugar and a 1/4 cup of cornstarch in the pot here. I'm going to turn it on to medium heat. I love my gas stove, I must say. I've got 2.5 cups of milk here. I'm just gonna pour that in. I normally would do this slowly and whisk as I pour, but for the sake of videoing, I'm a little short on hands. I'm just gonna start whisking that. The nice thing about the sugar and mixing it with the cornstarch is that it helps to break down the cornstarch a little bit. Sometimes it gets kind of clumpy. So that process worked pretty well. Sorry, I just took you on a little ride there, I think. So we're just gonna whisk, whisk, whisk. Let this heat up and get to about medium thickness. And my shell just came out of the oven. It looks beautiful and golden. And I'll be back with you in a minute or two. Still whisking. So the goal here is bubbling and thickening. It shouldn't take too long. It already I mean, it doesn't really look thicker, but it does feel a little bit thicker than it did when I started. So my pie plate, I used to have about, I don't know, 4 or 5 different pie plates. And I think over the years, I've made pies in them and taken them places and haven't brought my pie plates home, because today when I went to get my pie plate out to make this, I had one, that's it, 1 pie plate. No one can survive with only 1 pie plate. So this pie is actually going to my in-laws today. Jay is driving out to pick up a saw from my mom and dad Urama's driveway, likely. There will be a driveway pickup, and La Pie is going to get left there in return. So I know Mom Urama is really awesome about making sure that we get containers and things back. So I know that this pie plate will come home, but while this pie plate is gone, there will be no other pies being made, which makes Jay really, really sad because it means he isn't going to get a pie this weekend. I hear him in the background now saying, whoa, whoa, whoa. So I don't know if pie plates are considered essential items in the middle of a pandemic, but for a baker, a pie plate is absolutely considered an essential item. So we may have to make an emergency trip to the pie plate store. I've been lusting after some of the stoneware pie plates, which are probably a little out of my price range given that I'm not currently employed in the most traditional sense. So we'll see about that. I mean, another option, if you don't have a pie plate, I know not everyone does, and you might be thinking, I really want to make some of this lovely flapper pie, is you can just buy the tinfoil pie plates, and some of them, this is totally cheating, some of them even come with the graham cracker crust already in them. Pro tip. All right, so we are bubbling and thickening. I'm gonna take this off the heat, stir a little bit into my egg yolks, and then put everything back in the pot. All right, so we just added a little bit of the mixture into the egg yolks, giving them a little whisk. And that's just to help get the egg yolks to the same temperature so that they don't essentially cook hard when you put them into the rest of the mixture. So these are whisked up pretty nice. I'm gonna add them back in and we're going back to the stove. All right, so the egg yolks are back in the pot. It's just a beautiful custardy color. It's nice and smooth, super, super thick. And we're gonna cook this for 2 minutes just to make sure that everything is good and cooked and mixed in, ready to set. I'm gonna chat with you while I stir. I'm actually using the timer on my video to judge that 2 minutes because sometimes time gets away on me. A minute turns into 3, or I think 3 is 1. It depends what I'm doing. So I'm gonna just chat with you. So I told you my pie plate story, and this is obviously my first time doing some kind of a cooking video. I'm feeling super, super awkward and like total amateur. I don't know if this is something that I will do on the regular or not, although it is kind of fun. Most often I bake alone, and it's really bubbling good. I'm just gonna turn the heat down a wee little bit. I've got it on medium, but I don't want to boil over too much here. So turn down the heat and just keep on whisking. Anyways, yeah, so this videoing stuff is kind of fun. I usually bake alone, and you know, I mean, there's people, Jay's around or Callie's around, but for the most part, I am kind of left to my own devices. So it's interesting to try to plan out what to do and be able to explain things to people. So my timer just hit 2 minutes. I'm going to pour this into the crust. Oh, I'm so excited, you guys. It smells so good. Actually, I'm going to add a little bit of vanilla first, and then I'm going to pour it into the crust. So I'll show you what it looks like when it's in the crust. Ta-da! So the filling is in the pan. I added half a teaspoon of vanilla when I took the filling off the stove. I whisked it in really quick, poured it into the pan. You can see that I slopped over the edge just on the right hand side there a little bit. It'll be fine, not to worry. One of the nice things about this custard is it's going to kind of soak into any of the spots that I didn't fill really well in the pie crust, and hopefully hold it together. Graham cracker crusts can be a little bit persnickety, mine probably more so than others, but you know what, whatever. At the end of the day, it's going to taste amazing, and that's the most important thing. So I'm going to make the meringue now. I've got my egg whites set aside. I just need to find my whisker attachment for my mixer, and we'll get our meringue made. So I've got 3 egg whites in the bowl. I did add a 1/4 teaspoon of cream of tartar just to help make sure my meringue does what it's supposed to do. I'm gonna whip this up until soft peaks form, and then we're gonna add a little bit of sugar and whip it a little bit more, and then get it on our pie. Hello, soft peaks. Oh, there's nothing more beautiful than whipped egg whites. I swear they are like the prettiest thing in the universe. Okay, we gotta add a little bit of sugar and do a little bit more whipping. I'm not always the very, very best at gradually adding anything, but I'm sure trying. So this will be 1 tablespoon. The recipe calls for 2. I'm going to put in the full 2, but I might, if I make it again, I might put in just a little bit less. The hard part about this is I'm not going to be able to taste the pie to know what it tastes like and if I should alter anything. But I'm pretty sure I can get some honest feedback from Mom and Dad Grandma on it. And this is the 2nd tablespoon. Going in, sort of gradually. Shaky shake. There we go. All right, let's fire this baby up. We're looking for glossy peaks now. I will show you glossy peaks when we get them. I'm not sure if you can see that really well or not, but the egg whites are kind of shiny. They look like they've got a little bit of like a gloss or a sparkle to them. That's the look that we're going for. They look like they're holding, the peaks are holding really well. Nothing's falling over, which is what we want. We want it to be nice and stiff so that when we put it on our pie, it like stays in place. I'm gonna give it just a wee little bit longer, and then we're going to get it on our pie. So I'm no meringue expert, but look at this. Fluffy clouds of heaven. All right, let's get this on top of the pie. Off to the stove we go. So you can see that the custard has set up really nicely, or the filling set up really nicely in the crust. So we're just gonna dollop. Oh yeah, it's nice and thick. We're gonna dollop this onto the pie. I think I'm gonna need 2 hands. Okay, you saw kind of how we do that. I'm gonna put it all on and then we'll smoosh it around and make it look pretty. All right, meringue on. So I probably fiddled with it a little more than I should have. Par for the course for me. But what I tried really hard to do was to make sure that it was like stuck to the crust on the side so that when I bake it, it doesn't shrink away. I want it to stay close to the edges and keep that filling covered. So I tried really hard to get it to stick to the crust, and then I just kind of used the back of my spoon to make what appears to be little peaks. I'm just gonna give it a little sprinkle of cinnamon because I firmly believe that everything is better with cinnamon. Ta-da, voila. I am also going to add, I saved some of the crust and I'm just gonna pour a little bit of that on top too, just to give it a little bit of a decoration. All right, so this beauty is ready for the oven. I'm gonna put it in for about 6 to 8 minutes. I just want my meringue to brown up a little bit. And while it's in the oven, I'm gonna clean up my now disaster of a kitchen. We'll see you soon. The pie is out of the oven. The meringue held exactly the way I wanted it to hold. It's nice and snug around the side. Didn't pull away at all from the edges. The meringue, it's just nice golden brown. The crust and the cinnamon on top looks beautiful. I'm super happy with the way this turned out. I think it looks really, really nice, and I hope that Mom and Dad Urama love it for their Easter dinner. And I hope that you are willing to give it a try. It's a super simple, just custard and meringue recipe. Honestly, if you didn't even want to put the meringue on it, you could easily just put some extra crumb on top and it would be totally fine that way too. I really like that it's just simple ingredients, usually fairly readily available. It took about, I didn't actually look at the clock when I started making it, but I would say no more than 45 minutes from start to finish to get it done. Probably even a little bit less than that, which is great. So it's gonna sit, you're gonna want it to sit in the fridge for probably an hour, maybe a couple of hours before you serve it, just so that everything sets up nicely. So I'm gonna let it cool first. I don't want to put it super hot into the fridge, so I'm going to let it cool a little bit, and then I'm going to put it in the fridge. And by the time Jay is ready to leave and head to his mom and dad's, it'll definitely be ready to go. And if they so decided, they could eat it the second he arrived with it. So that's been Flapper Pie with Paula. Thanks again to Dinner with Julie for the recipe. And ultimately, thanks to Uncle John for the inspiration. I made my first flapper pie for him for his 50th birthday, which was just a couple of years ago, right, Uncle John? Wink, wink. And everyone really enjoyed the flapper pies that were made for his birthday. So I thought I could easily create it again. I hope you all have a wonderful, wonderful weekend. And from my kitchen to yours, hugs and love.